All right, here we go. Today is very interesting because it's like we're in November now, but it's warm outside. So, very interesting. Yeah, climate change. Well, I mean, I would also argue that there's kind of this like transition between, you're coming from summer and then it's like usually it's like from summer straight to winter, you know. It's crazy, but it's just I don't know. It's interesting. Anyway, something in me is happy to be past the process of the individuation, for the 31 days for the month of October. And really, the only reason is because I don't feel like it was structured well. I feel like I could have done a better job in how I structured it. And for me personally, I can't imagine for anyone else who went through the process. But for me, it was very overwhelming. Like one question after the other, day after day. No, thank you. I'll pass on behalf of that. Yeah, so where I am now is I am doing the best that I can to bring my idea of what is my greatest self into every situation possible. Something that I've been working on lately that is absolutely critical for me is active listening, right? Throughout my entire life growing up, what I've done is the exact opposite. More so, I was like, while listening to someone, I was actually formulating a response, and that completely fucked up my receiving of what they were saying. Right? So, like, it's just very interesting to be here because, like, I'm reminding myself every time that I go into conversation with anyone, active listening and stuff. And sometimes it's challenging, sometimes it's not so challenging, other times it's just kind of like, believe me, I need to make this very, very understood, right? Relationships are going to become a lot better if people actively listen. And it will show if you are actively listening. It will. Because the way that that works is that you actually have the ability to repeat back to the person what they said to you. If you cannot do that, there's a good chance that you did not actively listen. So it's very interesting to kind of like sit yourself in the moment with somebody. It doesn't matter what it is that they're saying. It doesn't matter who it is, right? And I'm not going to say that everything that everyone has to say matters because if you genuinely don't care about something that someone's saying, you have to be honest with that. You have to just like, don't let them think that you care. Like if you actually don't care, then, but at the same time, there has to be boundaries there because it also is a matter of like if they're telling you something that's important that is necessary for you to know for you guys to have a healthy relationship, then you need to listen. And if you genuinely don't care, then there's a good chance that you just shouldn't be in a relationship with that person. So it's very interesting to be where I am at now because like previously what I did was not active listen or actively listen. And now, to the best of my ability, actively listening, and not only actively listening, but actually being honest with people as to where my awareness is. Right. So if they're trying to talk to me, and I'm like, "Hey, listen, I'd love to be able to actively listen to you. Right now, I am doing this, and it's taking my focus. So if you could just, give me like 5 minutes, and then you'll have my undivided attention." The thing that's so interesting to me about humans and about relationships is the potential, right? And I would argue that a far majority of the potential comes down to communication. And I would also argue that a lot of people do not utilize, high quality communication. And when I look at that, it's kind of just like, but why? Like, we're so capable. Like, we have the capacity to communicate at such high quality and like really like deep levels. And it's so interesting because I look at my own struggles, right? I like the things that I was challenged by growing up and everything, the reasons why I evolved the way that I did, where I was back then, where I am now, and everything. And it's like, yeah, if you just recognize that, you know, communication can really take you far places. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy how, like, everything unfolds. So what I've been doing recently, what I've been doing recently, like I've been saying, is just actively listening, just taking the time to, like, be with whatever the person is saying. And not only that, but something that I actually also want to do moving forward is talk more moderately, right? I don't have to talk at a million miles per hour, which I have done in the past. More so like how I'm talking right now. And that's important to me because I don't need to come off as like Speedy Gonzalez, you know. I don't have to come off like somebody who just needs to unload a whole bunch of crap. Because what you say is energy, and people are receiving that energy. And how people receive you is going to bring them to experience you in a very specific way. This is not a matter of trying to get people to feel a certain way about you, but it's a matter of how you deliver yourself. Don't do it with the intention of trying to manipulate something externally. Do it with the intention of how you will be as a person, right? And that's what I'm looking at too. Like, I'm not looking at like active listening as like okay, I'll do that so that you like me more. No. I'm looking at active listening because it's necessary for life. Um, like, if you're going to evolve, you need to understand, or I should say, if you want your relationships to evolve, if you don't want them to just stay, stagnant and not go anywhere, you have to be present. You have to listen. You do. Because people have wants and needs. They have all that stuff, and they are going to voice them, and if you are not there present with them when they're voicing them, there will be consequences for that. So that's just the way that it is. You have to understand that. It's absolutely crucial. So, yeah, that changes the dynamics of everything, and I'm realizing another thing that I'm really kind of like sitting with also is just acceptance for people, like, not a matter of like who they are, but where they are. And when I say where they are, I mean, like, you know, if someone's sad, right? It's not my responsibility to cheer them up. No, that is a rescuer's mentality. It's not really even my responsibility to do anything. As long as I'm not hurting them, I have no responsibility in their life. But what I choose to do is I choose to be present with them, and I choose to allow them to understand that that's where they are, and that's okay, and that where they are is okay. And it really changes the dynamics of everything. What I through my own personal experiences, what I have learned throughout the years is that people don't want to be pulled out of who they are. Right? Chris does not want to be pulled out of who Chris is, right? I've rarely met people out there who have the capacity to be neutral and not pull me outside of myself and say things like, like, oh, come on, like all that kind of stuff, like, like, just trying to pull Chris out of Chris. Like, it's like Chris wants this. And people are like, but Chris could want this instead. And my response to that is, Chris wants this, right? And they're always just trying to move that over here, and it's like, no. And they're like, move it over here, no. And so, like, I just don't mess around with that energy anymore. That's just the way that it is. It's very interesting to be here at this point in my life because I have learned things about myself that are very interesting. One thing specifically being that there was never actually anything wrong with me, that I was never actually inherently defective. Again, I'm not going to get into the logistics as to what brought me to these conclusions or anything previous to that. But what I am going to say is that when you hold on to a belief, or I should say, when you are taught a belief growing up that you are, that there's something wrong with you or that you're inherently defective, you're not going to go throughout life believing that you deserve great things. You're just not. You're going to go throughout life believing that you are a worthless piece of shit that doesn't deserve anything good. And that's just the reality of it, right? And so therefore you are going to settle. You are going to settle. You're going to settle on every account. And so that's exactly what I'm healing through right now. And it's very interesting. But yeah, I'm excited for the path forward.